Yeah, it's great to close things out here. Thanks everyone for your attendance. So as Andrew said, we're going to talk about Kazakhstan, which I think we're the only company here focused in Kazakhstan, but lots to talk about. So we won't spend too much time on here other than pointing out that my business partner and our CEO, Tim Barry, who's a geologist, is based in Kazakhstan. So he moved his family there 3 years ago. I'm based in Vancouver, and over the last 3.5 to 4 years, we've been building out a substantial business in Kazakhstan focused on copper and copper gold projects. We successfully raised some capital here earlier this year. I know there's a few shareholders here in the room. Thank you for your support. We're well funded, $16 million. Kazakhstan's a place that, believe it or not, it's hard to spend money. It's got some of the lowest cost structures in the world. And so that 16 million has got us in very good position right through to the back end of next year with some very robust projects and programs that are underway. Teck is a strategic holder with just under 10%, Sprott as well, and institutional and insiders and make up combined now about 50% alongside with Teck and Sprott. So 3.5, 4 years ago, when we first got into Kazakhstan as an early mover, we really felt this was a country that was going to continue to and kind of garner interest in our space. Part and parcel because there was some significant reforms that kicked off in 2018 where they adjusted and updated their mining law that effectively copies Western Australia. And just prior to us getting established, both Rio and Fortescue had come in. RCF had acquired a gold mine, which they then went on to expand and build, and just 2 months ago sold it for $1.2 billion. And so when we got involved, we very quickly focused on a lot of the historical work that had been done by the Soviets, because quite frankly, there hadn't been much exploration done in Kazakhstan since 1990, and quickly established ourselves as the third largest landholder in the country focused on copper. Teck Resources then shortly thereafter made a strategic investment, and we subsequently then also entered into an exploration alliance on a portion of our land package to focus on some of the earlier stage licenses through a generative program that Teck is funding. I'll talk about that in just a moment. But then really over the last 24 to 30 months, we've seen the world start to arrive. So Barrick's now in the country and is set up with a local entity. First Quantum is in the country now with projects that they're drilling. B2 Gold recently established themselves, and I know have a couple of projects now in the country. Robert Friedland and Ivanhoe Mines arrived earlier this year and is undertaking a substantial exploration program in the sediment copper belt in the south. And then I mentioned Zijin just recently acquired that asset from RCF. The other thing I think that's worth pointing out and not necessarily well understood in this part of the world is that today 60% of the foreign direct investment in Kazakhstan comes from North America and Europe. Companies like Chevron have some of their most important assets in this country. 4 years ago, they expanded those operations that were established about 20 years ago, and that expansion alone was $46 billion. So there's very real dollars that have been invested here in the energy space, in the metals and mining space, in the agriculture space, and you're seeing the broader investment as well coming from Europe. Just recently, the EU pledged $13 billion to Central Asia, really focused on critical minerals, but also on those infrastructure through that middle corridor from Central Asia and into Europe. So a steady stream of heads of state that are coming through here, and Kazakhstan has been really rock solid over the last 4 years since we've been there. So we're focused up in the northeastern part of the country. This is about a 3-hour drive from Astana, which is to the west on a 4-lane paved highway. And you can see here it's where a lot of very significant mineral belts collide. We're focused on the Bozshakol magmatic arc, which starts out further east, Mongolia, through Oyo Tolgoi. And you can see some of the names on that slide. Some you may not recognize, but Muruntau is the largest gold deposit in the world. El Malak, one of the bigger copper deposits in the world. And then, of course, many copper deposits that are operating in Kazakhstan. In addition to the Modern Mining Act, very competitive corporate tax terms, but again, not only is this country very well endowed and underexplored, it's a top 10 in the world of many of the things that we use today. Those two photos there are two large-scale mines that are right, in the general vicinity of where we're focused. You can see the Bogatyr coal mine. It's literally out the back door of the house that we rent in Ekibastuz, and this is the 5th largest coal mine in the world. It's been operating since 1954. it still has a 100-year reserve. I haven't seen a pit this big anywhere in the world. It's 13 kilometers by 6 kilometers. The Bozshakol copper mine, which we almost completely surround with our license package now, and it's part of the Teck Arras Alliance, produces about 100,000 tons of copper. And as you see on this slide, some work that Mining Visuals out of Europe did last year. They looked at copper producers from around the world, all the big ones, the Codelcos, the Lundins, the BHPs, the Rios, and quite surprisingly, some of the lowest cost copper mines in the world are in Kazakhstan. And that's not necessarily because you've got high grade deposits, but in fact, they're lower grade. And one of those is Bozshakol, which is right up in the neighborhood that we're in. And you can see they're producing copper for about $1 a pound, and that grade is 0.3% copper and 0.13 gold. And so why is that? This is some of the lowest costs anywhere to move dirt. You've got 45 cents a liter diesel to fill up your truck, and I'll see that next week when I'm there in Kazakhstan again. 2.5 to 3 cents a kilowatt hour power. Your labor inputs are somewhere between 1/8 and 1/10 of what you'd see in Chile or Australia or Arizona. And for us, where it really makes a difference is it costs us about $100 to $110 a meter to drill core. And so you can get a lot of work done here very efficiently, and obviously that helps the bottom line and makes it easier for us to move things along. So as we jump into the broader package, you can see here on this slide, the blue shaded areas are the license packages, about 1,900 square kilometers that fit underneath the Arras Teck Exploration Alliance. I'll talk about that momentarily. And the clear ones are 100% ourselves. And in fact, we're going to talk a little bit now about Elemes, which is right in the middle of the page, and a key focus for us here over the last 18 months. So the Elemes project did have some historical work that was done on it. About 18 years ago, there was some drilling, primarily 250-meter holes that were done. But outside of that, you're really relying on the Soviet work pre-1990, between the 50s through the 80s. 18 months, 2 years ago, we undertook some significant soil programs here, and you can see 2 large copper and soil anomalies were announced last year. One 9 kilometers long, the Bereski, where some historical drilling was done, and then the Amandai, which actually larger, 14 kilometers, but very limited work done historically here at all. So we followed that up and did an initial drill program late last year, and announced the results earlier this year, so in January and February. So 11 holes, just over 4,000 meters of drilling, testing a variety of targets, and keeping in mind that from top to bottom there is about 9 kilometers. So you can see we're really just kind of scratching the surface. But on that slide, you'll also see then that there's a few key areas. There's the Bereski Central area, Bereski East, and then as you go further north, about 5.5 kilometers, the Bereski North area. And so we had some successful drill outcomes there. I mean, down at Bereski Central, hole number 1, 261 meters of 0.64% copper. We then did some drilling over here at Bereski East, which was primarily gold, and that was kind of 100 meters plus or minus of about 1 gram, starting again from surface. And then up at Bereski North, partially helped by a breccia zone that we intersected, 547 meters of 0.7% copper, starting in from 14 meters. So some large-scale opportunities, in these circles, as you can see. This was a bit of a launching point for us here 8 or 9 months ago. Allowed us to raise some capital in the second quarter. As I said, we raised $16 million, and we're in good shape here for the next at least 18 months or so. And then kicked off a second phase, 20,000 meters of drilling here in May, and have now started to report on those results here over the last month or so. So again, we're kind of moving between areas where we know we've had some success down here in the south, Bereski Central, Bereski East, Bereski North, but also kind of hopscotching in the middle and testing targets that in some cases are 2 or 3 kilometer step outs, but we've identified both geochem and geophysical targets that we feel need to be tested just to be certain. We have done some follow-up work over the last couple of months with some geochem experts, and they have confirmed to us that it does seem like we have 2 separate and different porphyry centers that are evolving here. But again, we've got 15 holes reported, and over an area that's, call it 15 square kilometers, is really just kind of scratching the surface. So that program will continue on. It's a 20,000 meter program. We're about maybe a quarter way through that. We've got 2 drills turning at the moment, and that'll continue into 2026. And then the other thing I think to point out as well is that Amandai target. You might recall the trend on the east. We're just finishing up some geophysics now, and we hope to be outlining targets and starting to test that here later this year. So if we switch gears and talk a little bit about this Teck Arras alliance, we entered into that about 20 months ago or so. Teck is funding $5 million of exploration across that land package. Again, doesn't maybe sound like a lot. You can burn through $5 million if you've got helicopter-supported drilling in the top of mountains in a few weeks, but not here, of course. This is actually a pretty robust generative program across 1,900 square kilometers last year and this year. We've just completed drill testing 6 targets that we've worked with Teck to finalize across that land package. And the deal with Teck is that at the end of the $5 million expenditure, which Arras is doing the work on, Teck has seconded 2 of their geologists from around the world to our team in Kazakhstan. And at the end of the $5 million spend, which will be later this year, they then have 3 months to make a determination on which projects they would like to select. Should they wish to select, they have really a first choice of up to 4 120 square kilometer projects, and then can start earning equity. And that equity spend is $47.5 million or to achieve 75%, and that is per project. So 4 projects would be close to a couple $100 million US spend. And the projects that we've effectively narrowed down to, as you can see, Akaduk and Bozshakol had a target, which I'll talk about here. And then primarily most of the targets were up and around the Bozshakol group. So you can see that Bozshakol mine, which I referred to earlier as one of the lowest cost copper mines in the world today. Our license package is up and around in these terrains. An important thing I think to mention, and one of the things that we know that majors are looking at today, is that up in this area we're dealing with primarily somewhere between 10 and 30 meters of unconsolidated cover. So the geology is masked. It's very flat. You're out in the steppe. You can count power lines if you've got a good set of eyes for about 25 kilometers. And so what that really means then is that you've got to rely on geophysics. You've got to get through the till and get into the bedrock to be able to get your geochem samples back. And so that's really been a focus last year for us across this land package. And then this year narrowed it down to effectively 6 targets across the land packages, most of them up in here around the Bozshakol project. And of course, not surprisingly, Teck was very focused on copper. And so the projects that and targets that we worked up last year that were precious metals were not a priority. We know that we'll get those back next year and have to go through them and prioritize them as well. And so over the next few months, Teck will be reviewing these outcomes, and we've had some success, and I think we're pretty excited about this terrain and the potential here for large scale copper porphyries again that you can't see at surface. In most parts of the world over the last 150 years, if it looks like the mountain that's behind us in this room, someone's gone up and chipped a rock off and taken a sample and figured out what's there. But if you're standing on 5 to 20 meters of cover and it looks like the prairies, you don't know what you're standing on. And so that's what we're kind of trying to unravel here. So really in closing, and I think we're going to do a good job with regards to timing here. I see I've got about a minute left, but we early mover into the country. I have to say, for the first 2 or 3 years, we spent a lot of time educating people and talking about our experiences in Kazakhstan. We quickly got into the country, utilized a lot of the old Soviet reports, which are really quite good to establish a significant land package. Very judicious around, our spend and trying to maintain a tight capital structure. Brought Teck involved, did the alliance, was able to raise money. Now we're starting to test targets, and really there's multiple large-scale copper targets that are being drill tested this year and will continue on being drilled next year. So finally, we think we're in the right place at the right time. I mean, clearly the world is arriving here. The majors are arriving, Europe's arriving, lots of U.S. investment. This is a very strategic part of the world, and the Kazakh government does a great job, I think, of balancing the neighborhood they're in. It's obviously a key priority for the government. It's a well-known mining jurisdiction. President Tokayev, in fact, makes mention of this every year in his national address, not only about mining, but in fact, remarkably about the importance on exploration and finding new deposits. You don't find too many presidents that put that on the priority list. And for us, it's all about accelerating these discovery opportunities. We've started from a very low base. We've focused methodically on the exploration. We're finding things now. We've got great partners, and as I said, the world's really arriving. We've been very prudent. I think we've been careful about our share structure. We've tried to maintain a tight share structure. We're all shareholders and have continued to invest over the last 3 years. So we obviously want to see the same thing that shareholders do, and we'll continue to be opportunistic. We're an early mover here. We're pretty nimble, and while we're focused primarily in that northeastern part of the country, we're very well known in the country, and clearly there's lots of opportunities here in Kazakhstan for many years to come. Thank you.